40 years ago, the greatest team in Mets history took the field. One season, one amazing journey. This is Howard Johnson's 1986 Time Machine. We are rewinding the clock and reliving the most dominant run the Mets have ever had. Exactly as it happened. 1 week at a time. No fast forwarding, no binge watching. Buckle up as we activate the Howard Johnson Time Machine. Enjoy the ride.
Welcome everybody to week 13 of the Howard Johnson 1986 Time Machine right here on KINER'S your home for the best Mets coverage on the net. This week we're traveling back to May 12th through May 18th of 1986, a fascinating week where the Mets finally hit a little adversity after their incredible start to the season. Before we get going, I want you to make sure to like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on notifications so you'll never miss an episode of the Time Machine series on our exclusive interviews here on KINER'S Korner. If you prefer audio, you can download the Howard Johnson 1986 Time Machine as a podcast on all the major platforms, and you can even ask your smart speaker to play it as well. As always, we're thrilled to have Mets Hall of Famer, two-time world champion Howard Johnson taking us back to that amazing year week by week. Welcome, Hojo.
Welcome, Mark. Good to see you, buddy.
Always good to see you, and I might start calling you Sheik as well. I mean, I learned a little bit about that too, but
You've earned it. You've earned it.
There you go. But this week, we are also thrilled to welcome one of the emotional spark plugs of that legendary 1986 team, fan favorite, one of my favorites, the man for whoever forever will be remembered as Nails, maybe a few other things too. The one and only Len Dykstra. Welcome, Lenny.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here with you and Hojo.
It's always great having you, man. I love when you used to come into the radio station and be live on us, so this is a thrill for me. And you're looking good, and I'm sure all the Met fans that see you today are going to be happy that you're doing so well. So this week we're traveling back, like I said, to May 12th to May 18th. Really interesting turning point early in the season for the Mets. The week actually starts off on a high note with a dramatic 1-0 walk-off win over Atlanta behind Sid Fernandez, and things suddenly get a little rocky. Mets drop 3 straight games, frustrating series in Houston, where the bats totally went cold. Nolan Ryan was still Nolan Ryan, and the team finally looked human for maybe the first time all season. Then comes that huge weekend showdown in Los Angeles against the Dodgers, a series looking back now almost felt like the beginning of a rivalry. So coming into that week, the Mets are 21-5, almost looked unbeatable. But at the end of the week, they go 3-4. Suddenly, New York media starts asking questions. So, like I said, the week starts off with a classic pitcher's duel at Shea Stadium. Sid Fernandez faces Rick Mahler. Sid goes 7 innings, strikes out 10, allows just 4 hits. Mets beat the Braves 1-0. Walk-off RBI by Tim Tuffle that scores Ray Knight in the bottom of the 9th. Hojo, we've spoken a lot in the last 12 weeks about Doc, Ronnie Darling, and Bobby Hoeter over the course of this podcast. But I feel that Sid gets overlooked on that staff. What made Sid so tough when he was locked in?
Well, he does get overlooked, and it's sad because that guy had as good a stuff as anybody. He just didn't have the electric mid-90 fastball. He's basically in the upper 80s, but the way he threw from his release point was kind of low, and he kind of pushed it from his side almost. It was really weird. Guys never picked the ball up. I mean, I faced him one time in early BP or something. He was coming back from an injury or something, and he needed to throw some pitches, and I saw him for the first time, and he looked like he was throwing 120. That's what it looks like. It just comes out funny. You don't really see it good. The ball really takes off on you, and he had this big breaking ball that nobody ever swung at because he started it so high, and he would control it. He threw strikes with it. So if he had that thing going and guys were chasing that fastball up in the zone, Sid was as unhittable as anybody on our rotation.
So, Lenny, same thing to you. When you saw Sid Fernandez and he was on the mound, what stood out to you about him?
Well, what Sid Fernandez did, he was actually, I think, tougher against right-handed hitters than left-handed hitters, which is very different if you look at the numbers. But Sid Fernandez, like Hojo said, he struck out a lot of hitters with a fastball that people thought was in the mid-90s, but it really wasn't. 90 miles an hour, high 80s, low 90s. But the way he released it, the way he delivered that ball was very difficult for a right-handed hitter to pick up. And then he had that big swinging hook.
That hook was devastating. We
Yeah.
mentioned Timmy Tuffle gets that walk-off. Hojo, we've spoken so much about the way Frank Cashin designed this roster, how Davey used all those pieces. Guys like Wally Backman and Timmy Tuffle. How important was their early success to reinforcing the platoon system and the lineup approach while, it led so much to that team's early success? If guys struggle, do you think guys start pointing fingers, and maybe not buy into that platoon system?
You could, I mean, maybe in today's game, guys would do that, but not our team. It was very much, guys knew the role. Davey did a great job, as good as anybody I've ever been around, of using the whole roster. And I mean, for myself, I was platoon with Ray early on, and he got hot and stayed hot. And so he really deserved to be out there. I mean, there was nothing I could say that would make sense. So I just, accepted whatever Davey thought he could do with me, and same with Lenny. I mean, Lenny was out there. Lenny could hit lefties or righties, but you know, Davey would throw Mookie out there against the lefty, would just mix it up. But that was Davey, and he a lot of times when Sid was on the mound, especially, or Doc, I'd be at shortstop. That's the way he got creative by getting another bat in the lineup. And so, I totally trusted Davey. I think all the guys did, and he made it work, and it was really fun to watch.
When you look back on this season, it's 40 years ago. So,
Yeah.
we all have our certain memories of the team, and you look at certain points in the season, you point to like, oh, that truly defined this team. There's a moment in this game which I really think totally captures the essence of this team. You get the walk-off win. Roger McDowell had come in relief for Sid, who had that masterpiece. But in the post-game celebration, when, Knight scores,
Mhm.
Roger McDowell ends up getting a bloody nose from the celebration. Lenny, when you think of that, this is a May game, okay? And the Mets are winning night after night. But when you see that excitement by a guy, for a May win, what was it about that team, that group of guys, and you that love winning so much?
Well, I mean, look, we play in New York, and like, if you're going to play in a city, what a city to win, and you got to win in New York or LA, which I love about that. But the bottom line is we had a different guy help every night, and that was a team effort all the way, and that team effort showed up and was a result of what the success we had.
You take a look at it and just the energy that all of you guys brought night after night. And I'll ask you both. You both had long careers. Lenny, actually, you played on the Phillies, which is a very good team, very interesting mix of people. But in your career, this 86 Mets team, Hojo, was it the most fun you ever had playing the game?
Absolutely, the most fun ever. I mean, just even when I wasn't playing, it was just fun to watch that lineup. It was incredible. Watching Lenny in the leadoff spot, just battle pitchers and just fight to get on base, hit a home run every now and then, but just really symbolized the lineup, the attitude. And like Lenny said, we're in New York. There's a little different expectation being on a team in New York City, and so we were up for it. Especially that year, things were starting to fall into place, and it was just fun to watch every night. Somebody different would pop in and do something to contribute to a win, and it just reinforces itself as you do that more and more in a season.
What about you, Lenny? Favorite team that you ever played on?
Well, I mean, look, I got to play 86 Mets, and again, that was a magical year, and how could it not be? I had a great year with the 93 Phillies too, but like I said, in 86, it was somebody different, like I said earlier, every night, and we kind of set the tone early. We had a little skid, but not much of a skid, kind of just walked or tore right through that league, and then what happened after that, everyone knows, is magical.
It's interesting you say that because, in that game in the press, you take a look at it. You took some heat in that first game of that week. The first inning, you reach base on a Glenn Hubbard error. Terry Harper cut you down with you trying to go from first to third on a single to left. Then 2 innings later, you're caught stealing by Ozzie Virgil. But Davey always had his players back. If the press was pressing and saying, "Do you think he should?" He always took the players back. How much confidence in that was able to unlock your ability and to and stay as aggressive a player as you were?
Well, I mean, I was a young player, and I played the game as hard as I could, and that's what the fans in New York, I think, appreciated. And like I said, this is a great team, and if somebody didn't get through one night, the next night somebody would pick us up, and it came. I guess I think it could define a team effort better than any team could have.
Your aggressiveness, when you and Wally were at the top of that lineup, a lot of teams seemed intimidated by the Mets. Do you think by mid-May the word was out, Lenny, that these guys are like, there's no stopping them?
Well, I mean, that's a great point because there wasn't. I mean, we had the balance with the speed on the top, and we had the clutch hitting with Hernandez and with Straw, and I mean, and Hojo, of course. I mean, I can go on and on and on. We had a bulletproof lineup, and in the long run, that's what came through.
Yep.
Was there ever a concern, Hojo, that at one point that the confidence might have reached overconfidence? That you just did you guys ever stop working because you were so good that you felt you could just step on the field and beat anybody?
Well, we always felt we could beat anybody when we walked out there. That's for sure. But baseball's a game that can humble you very quickly. The team we had, I mean, it was harder to humble us because we were winning and the way we were winning and the personalities. But you run into a buzzsaw every now and then, like that, like 0-3 in Houston. I mean, those things, happen. I mean, you run into good pitching, they're going to shut you down. Three runs given up by our pitching staff. Maybe that's a game we should have won, but I don't think anybody ever took anything for granted. The fact that we had a great team and that we were probably going to win our division, because every night you do get tested in different ways. And it's not the same guy every night. It's your bench guys, it's your bullpen guys. Somebody's got to step up. And so that was the difference. I think that we knew that all those parts were legit. It wasn't smoke and mirrors. It was real. And so just by being there, doing our job, Davey, I give a lot of credit to him. He did a masterful job managing the personalities and putting the talent, where it needed to be that night, whatever night that was. And guys wanted to do the job and were willing to execute. If you weren't in the lineup, doesn't mean you weren't going to be in it sooner or later that night. And so as long as you have that mindset, you're going to be successful. You're going to get everything out of your team.
So it's the next night, Tuesday night, where things start to go a little sideways. The Mets lose the game 6-3 against Atlanta. Rick Aguilera continues to struggle with the home run ball early in the season. Despite that rough outing, Hojo, did teammates still believe in Aguilera that, he's young, maybe he's going to figure it out because of his talent?
Yeah, 100%. Guys are gonna back our pitching staff all the way. It's not, the way we look at it is if our guy's struggling or whatever, we got to score more runs, and it's vice versa. If we're not scoring, then our starters got to keep us in the game and give us a chance. So Aggie, we all recognize Aggie had ability and he had great pitches, and he could do things on the mound that a lot of guys couldn't do. And it took him a little bit to kind of find his way when he went to Minnesota, but nobody doubted Aggie's stuff. I mean, that guy was electric. I saw him in spring training and he was magical. And so I'm thinking, man, we got some depth. We've got pitching coming out of our rear ends. We got players. So, we just take each game as it comes and not get too high, ride the momentum, but just take the game one at a time. If we lose a game because someone had a bad outing on the mound or a bad day at the plate, that wasn't gonna derail us.
And Lenny, to that point, you came up with Aggie, a bunch of the younger guys that got infiltrated into that veteran lineup that were keys. Which was the guy, whether it be in the minor league system or when you got up there as a young player, that on days that went bad for you, were there to pick you up?
Well, that was Keith Fernandez, and he had a leadership. Gary Carter was a leader too. We had a combination of, like I said, of veteran leaders who'd been around and were respected, and also great players. And that, like I said earlier, that defined a team in '86. We not only had young players, we had veteran players, we had middle of the road players. We had everything, and even if we lost, we knew we were going to come back and win the next time. See, we never doubted ourselves. We had a very confident group of individuals.
And you had those spare parts too. When Aggie struggled, Bruce Bereni got inserted into the rotation for a little while as well. On this little, downslide, the Mets were now all of a sudden showing some defensive issues. Hojo, you were having some difficulties, but Davey stayed committed to your bat, and the way, like you mentioned, getting you in was at shortstop, despite all the criticism of your defense at that point. Did you personally feel pressure? I mean, you take a look at the newspaper clippings from that time, and every article, every error that you make seems to start getting magnified.
Yeah. Well, I learned to live with it, and that's something. That's really much all I can say about that. You just deal with it. The fact that you're even out there playing, that gives you an opportunity to do something good. So that's the way I approached it. I loved playing shortstop when Doc and Sid were on the mound. It showed a lot of confidence in me from Davey's standpoint. If Davey was behind you, you could believe him, and that was the biggest thing. A lot of times, managers, especially nowadays, guy's struggling, he's having a tough time or whatever. They're going to put him on the bench and they're not going to use him, and then next thing you know, he's worthless. And that's not something Davey ever did. He always would talk. Bud Harrelson would always talk. Trying to pump you up, give you something that you could concentrate on in the field so you can make the play. And I learned a long time ago. You got to try to make the routine play. That's number one. And when double play ball, you got to turn a double play. So those are fundamentals that Buddy used to hammer home a lot. And defensive. I'm never going to be known as Ozzie Smith, but I did the best I could. I tried to keep getting better. And you make an error. Guess what? Next one's coming to you.
Lenny, this is also the week that, Mookie had come back from injury the prior week, and now the platoon starts. For you, you got off to such a great start being the everyday center fielder. How difficult is it to kind of check that ego, knowing that, all right, the plan was you were going to be platooning with Mookie. Mookie got injured. You needed to, hold, fort down until he got back. But when you're off to that great start, is it almost like, dude, like, why are you taking me out?
Well, it's kind of interesting, and I can say this because it's honest. Even though me and Mookie kind of platooned, we were good friends, and Davey found a way to get us both in the lineup towards the end when he put him in left field. But I was a young player. It was great to be in New York and win. And I was going to do whatever I had to do to win, and I think that's what all of us did, and that's why that team was the team it was.
So the Mets then head to Houston, and all of a sudden, the offense, which had been just red hot, cools down. But maybe one of the reasons is Bob Knepper is the guy that shuts you down. His only loss prior to this was to you guys. So he avenges that loss against Bobby Ojeda, giving him his first loss. So he goes to 7-1 after that game. Hojo, what made Knepper one of those pitchers that could totally disrupt a lineup's rhythm?
Well, there's always going to be guys out there that are going to give your lineup a hard time. Probably, being able to neutralize Max and Straw are big things. I mean, if you could take those two bats out of the lineup or at least neutralize them, it's going to have an effect on everybody else. But Knepper threw the ball is kind of a riding fastball, would take off. He had a big breaking ball, kind of like Sid, but not as deceptive. But he would get a lot of swings at balls up in the zone, and we knew we had our hands full with that guy. There's always going to be those guys in the league that give you trouble, and he was one of them.
Plus, to add on the fact that you're facing Bob Knepper, Lenny, you guys got in 4:30 in the morning that day because of travel delays. How difficult is that on a team, no matter how much talent you have, to be totally disrupted by travel? And how has travel changed since then?
Well, thank you. That's the thing about the off the field stuff. The fans don't really see that, and there's a lot of, and that's where a team comes in. But off the field, you got to do what you got to do to prepare and be ready for to playing the game. But let me fast forward, because you're speaking of Bob Knepper. Bob Knepper in '86, you remember in the playoffs, because remember Mike's shot was unhittable. Cheating, as we know. But
So you got up, Lenny.
yeah, well, we were down 3-0 in the ninth,
Yeah.
and I hit a triple off him in Houston in game 6, and went on to clinch it and win that game, which was huge. Because game 7, the guy was scuffing the ball; it was unhittable. So yeah, so that's my Bob Knepper story, and I think it's a pretty good one.
It is a good one. I like that one.
I love it. So, like we said, the offense certainly goes cold. Straw, Gary Carter, Foster slumping all at the same time. Could you guys see any frustration building in? And I think one of the guys that goes, maybe totally under the radar is Bill Robinson and the effect he had on the hitting guys. So, Hojo, walk me through what Bill Robinson meant to the team and to you.
Wow. Well, we used to call him Uncle Bill. He was a calming force for a lot of us, for me especially. I mean, he would, if I was struggling or whatever, he never would, speak and give you something that went in the wrong way. He would always talk to you in the right way. I think just keeping it simple, nothing major, a guy you could talk to every day as a friend. And we miss him dearly, but he was a great influence on a lot of our guys. I know Straw gives him a lot of credit. Carter loves him. Keith loved. Everybody loved Uncle Bill, and he was just a gentleman, and he had that confident attitude that when you got to first base, he made you feel good, and we always wanted to go down there and see him. That's for dang sure.
How about you, Lenny? What did Bill mean to you?
Bill Robinson was a great hitting coach. One of the things that Bill did is he pulled me to the side, and I think all of us, and talk us about the situation and keep you positive, keep you ready, because like he was our first base coach. But Bill Robinson was the kind of hitting coach that a team needs. With a Bill Robinson, you go to him and talk to him and ask him questions and not feel like you don't know how to hit. So Bill Robinson was a huge part of that team, like Hojo said.
So around this time, now with the slumping of the lineup, you got losses starting to pile up a little bit. The story from spring training with Dwight's accident resurfaced, the inconsistencies, the media runs with it. Lenny, how difficult is it? I mean, people talk about it. They say that it takes a certain ball player to play in New York, and this was back then. I can only imagine now with Twitter and social media, it's even more magnified. But as a young player, seeing what the press was doing to Dwight at that time, what goes through your head?
Well, I mean, look, the bottom line is you're in New York. You know the press is going to be there. I was a young player. That kind of stuff didn't really affect me because I didn't really know how it worked. I just knew how to play. And I knew that if I play right and play hard and do what's right for the team, that we're going to be in a position to win. And that's the thing about that club. We all did our job. And by doing our job, we put us in position to win. When we lost those games, we weren't shook up. That's part of baseball. You have a 162 game schedule.
So then comes the matchup that everybody circles on a calendar: Ron Darling versus Nolan Ryan. Hojo, last week we spoke when Doc was on about his matchup with Pete Rose, and we talked about the guy's legacy in the game, having played so long. Now, and we put that into context. Now, Nolan Ryan, he's a 39-year-old guy, but a guy who could still pitch 7 more seasons after that. What was it like facing him for you, Hojo?
First, it's very strange because you remember this guy when you were a kid watching him on TV and just throwing no hitters and just shutting offenses down, just dominating, especially in Houston. Houston was a big ballpark, dome stadium, and fans were very loud, and they would get behind Nolan Ryan like the fans at Chase get behind Doc. So it would get loud, and A lot of momentum building when you got to 2 strikes. No one wanted to get to 2 strikes, that's for sure. He was a force, fun to face. Always tried to get you out, which not every pitcher does, and that made it a lot of fun to face him. So, I mean, I love facing those guys. You know, you just those are at bats you definitely remember.
So Lenny, for you, you're a kid growing up in California during Nolan Ryan's years in California. I know you're also a kid that, from speaking to you, used to sneak into ballparks. What's
Huh.
it like? I assume you must have seen Nolan pitch a lot as an Angel. What's it like finally getting to hit against him? And was he one of your idols growing up?
Well, I mean, no pitcher's my idol. I
Ah, there
mean,
you go.
but let's call it like it is. I'm not gonna lie to you. I enjoyed hitting off Nolan Ryan, and back then that was before a slide step. He had a big leg kick too. So if you're on a first base, you still second, sometimes third. But Nolan Ryan, yeah, one time I was facing Nolan Ryan, and it was in the playoffs, and there's a highlight of it, and I hit a inside fastball. I crushed that thing, and it was on the wall, going, and it was gone. I was just seeing if it was going to be fair, and when it fell, I looked up, and there was Nolan Ryan staring at me with that look. I said, "Oh no!" And boom, next pitch flew right in my head. You know, to finish the story, I ended up getting a base hit to left field, and there we go.
That's awesome.
So in that game, the Mets beat Nolan Ryan. You guys win 6-2. Danny Heap homers off of Ryan. Joe, we spoke a lot about the team and the pieces,
Hmm.
and I think way back maybe week 2, Dave Magadan alluded to Danny Heap's intensity that when Magadan's bats hadn't arrived and he grabbed Danny Heap's bat and Heap
Yeah.
saw it from the outfield and gave him a look. What made Danny so perfect for the role that he filled for the Mets?
He was about as close you come to professional hitter as anybody I can imagine. Even Keith's like that. But Heaper would come off the bench. He'd always give you a good AB. His swing was beautiful. Seemed like he always got a good pitch to hit. Uh, I watched him a lot, and I asked him. I talked to him, and he was just such a good person, man. Down to earth. You know, whether he was going good or bad, you never knew it. And he was a guy you could go to and talk to and get information. But Heaper doesn't get mentioned a lot on that team because he was just like a hired assassin, man. He just come in there, give you a great at bat, get a base hit, take the walk. He would do all kinds of things, get the run in if he needed to from third base. And so Heaper was kind of a piece that gets overlooked a lot, but we all knew what kind of a ball player he was, and we tried to take advantage of that while he was with us.
So the Mets then head to Los Angeles for a huge weekend showdown against the Dodgers. We've spoken about this where back in the day people said the Phillies were the Mets rival when we all came to the conclusion that no way, you guys, the rivalry was the Cardinals. But
Hmm.
you could sense now this Dodger team was going to be a force, and it would be, in the Mets way in '88. Lenny, when you guys were heading to Los Angeles, could you sense that this was the building of a start of a rivalry with the Dodgers?
Well, it was a different kind of rivalry because they're on the West Coast, but the Dodgers are always been a great organization, and '86 we had their number, and we actually had their number in '88 too, but in the playoffs it turned out bad as we know. But yeah, I mean the Dodgers, it was fun to play there too, because that was where I'm from, and all my family and friends would be there, so. All my respect to the Dodgers. Good organization, good club.
Interesting you say that that's one of your favorite places to play because you grew up, but Dodger Stadium is just a beautiful venue. And I don't think in the 12, 13 weeks we've been doing this, I don't think we've even asked, which was your favorite road place to play? Lenny, you go first with that.
Mine was Houston. Yeah, yeah. I like Houston. I like playing in the Astrodome, knowing you're going to play because one of the things that the people don't think about that much is when you play in the East Coast in New York, like we did, we had a rain lot, so you have to be able to take rain delays off, start, stop. See, when you played in the dome, you knew you were going to play. It was game on at 7:30. And so you can kind of prepare and get yourself right. That's why the Dodgers had an advantage too because of the weather.
What
Yeah.
about you, Hojo? Which is your favorite?
Mine's easy. I loved playing in Chicago, Wrigley Field. I don't know what it was about it, but just the day baseball I liked. I really enjoyed that. The fans were cool. Uh, Ballpark was good. I hit good there. I saw the ball pretty good there. It was just one of those places that make you feel like you're playing baseball, and that was cool. I really enjoyed it. Even the restaurants at night, you could go and get a great steak. You know, get on the bus after the game. The fans were crazy. They hated the Mets. It was just a lot of fun. The whole package was good.
Yeah,
And,
sorry to interrupt. I got a quick story about playing in Chicago. So remember, they just started playing night games here. So
Yep.
I hit the first night home run,
Yep.
and it got rained out in like the third
Yep.
inning.
Yep.
Fast fact.
Yep.
I hit it again. Next time we played, no one hit a home run because they were playing sparingly. I hit it again. So I hit a 9 home run there twice. I guess the man upstairs wanted me to hit that first 9 home run.
That's right.
and then you also have the added bonus, if I'm correct, from speaking to you guys over the years, Chicago is the site of the infamous rookie hazing, the painting of the bull, right?
Oh,
Yeah, they ran some goat out there, right? Oh, the ball with the bull. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Now I know
You guys,
some of the horse. It was a horse, wasn't it?
the horse, right? The statue
Yeah,
of the
there you
horse,
go.
right?
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
that first night, Friday night, and this is what boggles my mind in doing this. You guys have such an amazing recall. I didn't remember this, to truth, full disclosure, until I read about it again, and then I did remember it. But so you guys lose 4-3 in 11 innings. There's a delay in the game for about 20 minutes. Um, I don't know if there's ever before that or ever since been that type of delay, but there was a delay because of a pickup truck in center field with its lights on. Do you guys remember that?
I don't remember that. I don't
Yeah,
remember that one.
yeah. So you
That's a
guys,
good one though.
yeah, yeah. So you guys lose that game 4-3 in 11 innings. Doc had pitched great. Jesse Orozco's scoreless streak comes to an end on a squeeze bunt. How shocking is it, Hojo, to see the Dodgers execute that play in that moment?
Uh, it was impressive because teams, especially at the backdrop in today's game, you never really see that anymore. But I mean, the Dodgers were, hey, do whatever it takes, man, to get that run home. That's what made them good. I mean, that's what makes any team good, to figure out a way to score when you need to score. And LA was really good at it.
And this is why, people really don't give Davey Johnson as much credit of backing his players, because the quote in the paper the next day was Davey Johnson said he should have called for a pitch out. Now, obviously, the squeeze wasn't even on the table. But Lenny, when you see a manager openly second guessing himself in the press to take the player's box back, how much more does it make you want to go through a brick wall for that guy?
Well, I mean, the thing about Davey is Davey was easy to play for, and he let us play the game. And that's what Davey's strength was, is he knew that was a good club, and he let us play the game and let us use our talent. But when he did speak, he said truth, and then, again, I respect that and love that.
And one of the things Hojo and even Bobby O said, the reason why you guys also respected him is he played the game. He was a player and he understood the ups and downs. But you guys also that week really defensively were really, really sloppy. Was there ever a point where Davey lit into you guys?
Asking me, I would no,
Yeah.
I never remember anytime Davey like got mad or said blew up at us. It's probably the opposite. That's when he would venture back to the back of the plane with that grin and a beer, and that was Davey's way of getting on you, was to go back there and just show you that, hey man, everything's good. I'm one of you. That's where we felt.
What about you, Lenny? Do you ever remember Davey losing his cool and yelling at the team?
Not really. Like Hojo said, Davey's strength was he knew he had a veteran team, and he knew he had guys that would speak when needed. Like mainly Keith and you know,
Ray, Carter.
Kids.
Ray, Gary Carter, and so Davey let the players handle it, and which was very, very successful. He did a great job of doing that. And I think that was a big reason why we had such success, and we didn't let little things happen or bother us, and so they wouldn't take it. We would just shake them off and go on to the next game.
So Saturday night, the Dodgers take it to Sid Fernandez. The Mets lose again, this time 6-2. George Forster struggles a day after Danny Heap gets the start. Forster goes 1 for 4, strikes out 3 more times, but then bounces back on Sunday with 2 home runs. Lenny, for you, watching Forster in that season, as you know, it was starting to be evident that things were going south for him. What was it like watching a veteran who had put together some pretty good seasons start to struggle, kind of towards the end of his career?
Well, I mean, that's kind of a difficult question. I mean, George Foster was, I mean, he was towards the end of his career, but he was kind of a quiet player, and he minded his business, but they made the decision. I was a little young to be able to reflect on all that.
So then Sunday, Randy Neiman picks up a huge relief win to help close out the week. Coming into the stretch, the Mets were 21-5, looked almost unbeatable. End of the week, they had gone 3-4. Suddenly, New York media starts asking questions. Hojo, when you look back at this particular week, do you feel like it might have been the first real speed bump in the road for the '86 Mets?
Yeah, I guess you could, looking back at it, you could say a little bit of a speed bump, but nothing earth-shattering that we couldn't, figure out ourselves. We're going to right the ship. But we played a couple good teams. I mean, Houston was good. LA was good. I mean, you're going to get challenged. Our West Coast trips really always weren't the greatest in Mets history, going on the West Coast. And whenever you had a good trip, it was rare and you felt good about it. But, we just, you play good teams, you battle, you do the best you can. And hopefully, you take enough notes so you face them again in the playoffs. So it was just one of those things, that we just accepted it. I mean, hey, it is what it is, man. We're going to come back and we're going to get them later.
Lenny, even as a young player, was this the kind of week that it dawned on you that every team that you were playing was treating it like the World Series, like they wanted to beat the Mets?
Oh, that's a good thing. That means you're good, And we felt that, but the bottom line is we played like we wanted to beat them, and we showed that, and we did beat them. So I guess that defines that.
Right.
I think 2 or 3 weeks ago when we had Bobby O on and we talked about the swagger, Bobby said, "Nah, it wasn't swagger; it was arrogance," and he was proud of it. What does a week like this, temper that swagger / arrogance, or does it make it even more accentuated? Like, all right, we just had a bad week, guys. We got to get back, and we got to, kick ass and start taking names and stuff like that. Hojo?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we were going back home, I think, after that trip. Usually we did. And we just get back in front of our New York fans and get strapping on again. Let's go. It happens. You're going to get beat. You're going to have rough trips here and there, but nothing deterred our confidence that we were not the best team in the league, and that's the key.
So, Lenny, for you, by May of '86, it's obvious that you are the spark plug of that team. The fans, feed off your energy. I think probably every Little League kid in 1986 was doing this with his hands on the bat. Everyone wanted to be Lenny. Did you feel that?
Not really. I mean, like I said, I was a young player, but I mean, I guess you might say not really. I guess really. Yeah, I can feel that. And by the way, and that's a good feeling. So you don't really like think about it when it's happening, but maybe afterwards you think about it and you say that's awesome. And that's the privilege of playing in New York in front of them fans. I mean, what fans, man? We had the curtain call and everything else. It was awesome.
So, Hojo, did the veterans see, like, when they see Lenny, did they feed, like, guys like Keith, they've been around, they play the game, they're very, professional, but Lenny just had this air about him. The way he went after fly, everything about his game was, full throttle all the time. Does that
Yes,
permeate the locker room?
absolutely it does. And if anybody says different, they're not telling you the truth. I loved watching Lenny play because he was a fighter, and every at bat was a fight, was a grind. He would just grind the other pitcher out, grind him out, figure out a way to get on, figure out a way to beat you, and that was he's the perfect New York Met. I mean, that's what it should be like every night. And so watching him do that, I mean, that's what we are. That's why we are today. I mean, people love our team for the personalities and the way that we refuse to lose and the way that we refuse to give in. And that starts at the top of the lineup, man. And that was Lenny, Wally, whoever was up there, Mookie. Guys did their job, man. They battled hard, and it's infectious when you see that. And when you get a young player come up, I remember young players coming up in Detroit, and they give you a spark, or a pitcher going on the mound, a new guy, and he'd mow down the side or something. You're like, okay, here we go. So it helps you, confidence wise, that you've got another piece. And fortunately for us, I mean, that guy was on our team, Len Dykstra.
Huh. Well, sorry, it was a team effort. Yeah, it was a team effort, and if you happen to be platooning or be on the bench, you might get called, like Hojo said earlier. You might get called up in the pinch hit, whatever.
Yep.
Even though everyone's fighting for the same position or the play, everyone wants to play, but we always rooted for each other, and that's the difference between our team. I think we rooted for each other on the field to help us all win. We all cared about one thing: that's winning baseball games.
That's right.
So we've covered all the games for that week, and what you just said, Lenny, I think is a great transition because you know what, I think it was probably Herb Brooks that said, with the '86, when you were a champion, you'll always walk together. And this '86 team, it's 40 years ago, but you guys are still a team. And, Lenny, from speaking to a lot of the guys, I think this team has had an important role right now in your life. You care to share a little bit of that with us?
Well, I made the journey, I mean, we all go through our ups and downs, and fortunately for me, I was able to get help, and Hojo was a big help, and Straw was a big, Straw's been my man. And look, the bottom line is go forward and live right and do the right thing, and it's not what you did, it's how you finish, and then um, that's what I'm going to do. And again, it's all about the results, and I respect and I'm grateful to be in this position.
And Hojo,
Amen.
how important is that team still being a family, to this day, 40 years later? And how much did that season and that championship solidify the teammate and family aspect of the team?
Well, everybody on that team, we're really a brotherhood. It's you'd fight for your family. You'd stand up against anything for your family to protect them or do whatever. If they're in the fight, you jump in with it, And that's just I don't know if you can go out there and say you're going to do that, but we really did it. That's the thing. We really did it. You can say it all you want. Teams can say they've got that or whatever, but it's got to show up, man. It showed up every night that we played, and we appreciate each other being out there. Like Lenny said, man, we pulled for each other. We genuinely did. I wanted Ray to do good. I didn't want him to do bad. I wanted, Raffy to play well. I just being ready. I think that's something you learn as a young player is when you come up there. There's so much out there nowadays. Players come up, there's money and there's opportunities and stuff, and it happens almost too quickly. And back then, we didn't really care about that stuff as much as they do now. It was more, we want to win. We're in New York City. We got a great team here. Let's get the job done. And you support your guys. You stay with them. You do whatever it takes. And that was what's so fun about that team. And that's why we genuinely had love for one another.
Couldn't have said it better. Lenny, Hojo, this was absolutely tremendous. Each week for me, it's just a trip to go back and revisit these weeks and just get chills talking about the games. Thank you both for taking us back. This one might have been a forgettable week, but it really wasn't because nothing about the 1986 Mets was forgettable. Again, everybody make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Leave your memories from the 86 Mets in the comments section below. You can listen to the Howard Johnson 1986 Time Machine as an audio podcast on all the major podcast platforms and on your smart speakers. Obviously, you can see Hojo in every single Met game, popping up as the Car Shield guy. So,
yep,
for Howard Johnson and Len Dykstra, I'm Mark Rosen from KINER'S Corner.com. We'll see everyone next week on the Time Machine.